It is the Flow Friday Night Sports Show, Western Air Netball, and boy, have we got some stuff to talk about here this week. Joining me on the line, she's back again, Rhianna Freeman. Hello there, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm going well. Look, we normally would start with the West Coast Hawks, but I'm going to keep you up our sleeve for a moment. We have to talk about the draw off the top. What about this result? Thevenard and Ceduna couldn't be split.
Yeah, I was stoked actually when I heard this because I always think it's really exciting. You've got, Blues, who I think prior to this was sitting third, and Sevi, who was top undefeated, coming up and having a draw, which just makes for a very exciting and close last half of the season.
Certainly does. It's the first points Thevenard have dropped in the year, or first point, I should say, just the one, singular, that they've dropped. So they're still undefeated. But for Ceduna Blues, look, we thought once they got themselves together that they would be the third wheel here, and it turns out that it looks like we were right. You don't have that sort of a result against an undefeated side unless you're right there and thereabouts.
Absolutely. And I think Blues were up by 3 in the first quarter, 1 at half time, 2 in the third quarter. So I think they sort of led the whole game. And I have heard that at some point, I think in the fourth quarter, Blues were actually up by 5 or 6. So I think while Blues would be very happy with the draw and coming up against the top side, I think Sevi could also take away a lot of positives from that, knowing that when they got pushed, they know how to push back and fight back and come away with a win. Sevi also didn't have Cassie, who's their coach, playing. She's had a bit of a sore Achilles, but their lineup's very flexible. Cassie out just brings Nikki Sleep into goal attack, who's normally in defence. So, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall for this game, and Blues just building and building. I think they've settled their goalies a little bit more. Holly and Taylor played in goals together, and then they put Hayley Clayton in keeper in the last half, with Cassie Grenfell starting, who's normally in goals, was actually in defence. Obviously, they're playing around with a few positions and it played off. So, What a cracking game.
Well done to both sides. So, the other game was yourselves, the West Coast Hawks, off to Penong and taking on Western United and enjoying some of their hospitality and enjoying another win. So it was a fairly solid result for your girls in the end. Lazy 20-odd goal win, 55-34. So, did what you had to do.
Yeah, we did. And look, it was actually quite a good game. We had a really good second quarter. We beat them by 18 in that second quarter. So that was definitely sort of set us up for the rest of the game. Their goalkeeper, Alana, and I'm going to get her last name wrong, so I do apologise, but it's Retalak, I think.
Right.
She did a great job on Shannon Johnson, who's our goal shooter. I think she moved and made Shannon work really hard for the ball, so well done to her. She would have been their best. For Hawks, it was Nadi Beard. She played in the centre. She was outstanding. As I say, our second quarter was fantastic, but in the fourth quarter it was actually even scoreline. So Westies definitely didn't let off. They worked hard for the whole 4 quarters. And I'd just like to have a little shout out. We actually had 3 sets of sisters play in this game, which I thought was pretty incredible for Hawks in the A grade. There's only 7 on the court and 6 of them were sisters, so I thought that was a pretty cool achievement from those girls.
Is that an advantage or a disadvantage? Have they got an innate ability to just know where each other are going to be, or is there a bit of sibling rivalry that creeps in?
No, I think, Nadi and Alana Beard, Nadi was in the centre and Alana's a defender, so they sort of played together all day. Hannah and Shay, both defenders, and played together. Chanaus, Shannon Johnson, a goal shooter, and Tegan Joyce, a defender, so they were opposite ends. So I think probably an advantage. I think they had that little bit of an extra edge and pretty keen to get the win while the 3 sets of sisters were playing together.
Okay, all right. Of course, the other fixtures was Wirrala taking on Knibbert. No A-grade result there, of course, because Knibbert don't have an A-grade this year. But so the Wirrala A-grade girls got to put their feet up. The rest of the fixtures went off as per normal, I'd imagine.
That's right, but it did give the opportunity for Emma Willis, who I've mentioned a few times this year, has just had a 3rd child. She came back and played a game of B grade, and I hear that it took her a little bit to settle in, but once she did, she was back at her best. So welcome back to the game, Emma Willis.
Of course. So that leads us to this week, round 9 of matches. Ceduna Blues Western United. That's where we'll start, and you would expect that the Blues will just be a bit too good for Westies, who they're improving, they're getting better every week, but geez, they've come in this year to a pretty hot competition with four teams that can, well, any one of the four teams could probably win the comp.
Absolutely. Westies have definitely got a great team. They're just missing a couple of key links. So I think it's a bit of a building season. They get those couple of links back in next year, and they'll be absolutely a team to be reckoned with. Blues will be coming off a high after their draw last week, but I imagine if Holly coaches like her mum last year, it will be the business building on what mistakes they made last week and using this as an opportunity to try and straighten those out. There'll be some really good matchups. Durrani Hofritzer in goals will come up against, your Hayley Clayton or your Georgia Lambert. Either one of those would be a great matchup. Danielle Warmington is in wing defence normally for Westies. She's a great player, and she'll come up against someone like Amy Northworthy or Rebecca Ridley. So a couple of key matchups there, but I would imagine Blues would come away with a win. Last time they met, Blues won by 18.
Okay. It should be an interesting game, but the Blues will win that. But it's really all about the Midwest Cup between the Hawks and Wirralur. And this isn't a little bit unusual. Now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but traditionally in the past, the Hawks and Wirralur have played a lot of times at Pidnippy. Well, this time they're coming into Streaky Bay, right?
Yeah, that's right. It has sort of always worked out that we've met at Pidnippy quite a bit, but this will be our first home game in Streaky for the year, which is a lot later than normal, halfway through the season, but everyone's got in there and things are looking good, and we're looking forward to a match-up. It's always a cracking game, Hawks against Wirralur in the A-grade.
Yes, a rivalry over many years developed here between the Hawks and Wirralur, and it should be a cracking game. Obviously, you will hope that you'll be tipping your girls, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I am. Look, I think Emma's going to start in the A-grade this week and see how she goes. So she'll be a massive in for them. I really don't know how they'll line up with Emma back in there. I'm assuming they'd have Emma and Sophie in goals, which would then put Sydney back into defence. So that sort of strengthens the side as well. Hawks are still without Chloe Evans, and Tegan Joyce hurt her kneecap last week in the game, so she's out. So our team is looking a little bit different, but that does give the opportunity for Tara Jelinek, who plays B-grade. This is the first time she's stepped on the court as an A-grader, so she's feeling pretty nervous, but she's very capable. So Hawks will be lining up a little bit different, and so we're all with the addition of Emma. So I actually think, although Hawks come away with a 17-goal win last time, I don't imagine we'll have a scoreline like that again. Obviously, I would hope that the Hawks girls can come away with a win, but I actually think this will be a very strong game and a great matchup all the way down the court.
Agreed, and you were too quick for me before. I went to the wrong sound effect.
Much, don't I?
Yeah, no, I went to the wrong sound effect, to be honest. I nearly got it in, but never mind. I guess Emma and Cindy reunited. They're going to create some havoc for teams in the second half of the season, but you'd expect Wirralur will join the three above them as a genuine contender from this point on.
Yeah, look, I think things are just getting more and more interesting as the season gets on. Teams are selling a little bit more. People that have either had injuries or babies are coming back and feeling nice and strong. I do think this last half is going to be a very strong anyone's game half of the season. So I think that makes for a really healthy competition. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where it all ends up.
All right, well, good luck this weekend. Good luck to everyone in Far West Netball, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
No worries. Thanks for having me.